Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let me explain what happens when you try to do a time machine backup and you're using iCloud Drive. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. Now when you're using iCloud Drive, the important thing to keep in mind is there are two different modes. In System Preferences, you'll find these in your Apple ID under iCloud Drive, and it's called Optimize Mac Storage. And you can either have this off or on. Now let's look at what happens when you have it off. Let's dive down into iCloud Drive, into the Documents folder. Let's say you have Desktop and Documents turned on and you've created a folder called Some Folder. In there you have 5 files. These are on your Mac. You look on your Mac in your Documents folder, Some folder, there's files A through E. Since these are on iCloud Drive, these are also going to be on Apple's server. 100% of the files on your Mac in your Documents folder in iCloud Drive are going to be on your Mac, and 100% of them are also going to be on Apple's server. When you have Optimize Mac Storage turned off, everything is always going to be in both locations, or it's easier to think of it as one location that you can access from different places. If you go to backup with Time Machine, Time Machine is going to back up everything locally, including anything you've got in your user folder that's outside of iCloud Drive. Also anything that's in iCloud Drive. All these files are there locally on your Mac. All the data is there. When Time Machine does its backup, it backs everything up. You have 100% backup of all your stuff if you're using Optimize Mac Storage turned off. Now what if you turn it on? If you have Optimize Mac Storage turned on, you may see something like this. Only some of your files are available on your Mac. It appears all the files are there. They're all going to be in the list. But some files you haven't accessed recently, are going to be offloaded. They're going to appear to be there, but they're kind of like envelopes that are empty. There's nothing inside. The content of the files is missing. You can recognize these very easily because they have a little cloud icon with an arrow pointing down in them. This icon allows you to click it and download those files so they're there. Or you simply can open up the file and on demand you're going to be able to download them from iCloud Drive before the file opens up. Note that 100% of your files are always on Apple servers. Optimize Mac Storage is for optimizing your local drive. The whole point of this feature is you have a small drive locally but plenty of space on iCloud Drive. So if you have a terabyte of stuff, you can have that all on Apple servers, but maybe you only have a 512 gig hard drive, so only some of the stuff, like in this case file A and C, are fully present with all the content. And files B, D, and E are just hollow files, nothing in them, the content is missing. In this case, when Time Machine backs up, it can only properly back up the files that are completely there. File A and C will be backed up. Files B, C, and D can't be backed up. The contents are missing. So if you need 100% local backup, all your files there all the time, no exceptions, then there are two things you need to do. First is your drive needs to be big enough to hold everything. If you have a terabyte of data, you need to have a terabyte, probably 2 terabytes really, of drive space on your local Mac. Then step 2 is make sure Optimize Mac Storage is turned off. This ensures that all your files are local as well as on the server at all times, and Time Machine can back everything up. But do you actually really need that? I'd argue that most people don't, because even with Optimize Mac Storage turned on and not all your files local all the time, you still are getting just about everything backed up, probably more than you even think. So let's look at the situation where you have Optimize Mac Storage turned on. Some of your files are on your drive. Only the files currently present are backed up. So in this case file A and C will be backed up. B, D, and E would not. Or are they? Well, here's the thing. They kind of still are. Let me look at two situations. One in which you create a completely new set of files. So you start a new project. You create a new folder for it called Some Folder. You've got your Time Machine backup going. You've got Optimize Mac Storage turned on. You create your first file. It's a new file. It's present on your Mac. It's going to get backed up. It may in the future get offloaded and not there, but that's way in the future. Right now, Time Machine does its hourly backup and it gets file A. File A is backed up. You create 4 more files. They're all new files. They're all present on your Mac. They're all going to be backed up. It's going to be a while before those are offloaded because you recently used these files. Optimized Mac Storage keeps around recently accessed files because they're the ones you're most likely to need again. So everything here now is fine and backed up. Now let's say some time goes by. You access A and C pretty often, but it turns out B, D, and E you haven't accessed since you originally created them. There's no need to back up B, D, and E again anyway because it backed it up the first time and you haven't changed them since. Even if Time Machine had access to these files, it still wouldn't back them up because it already has a backup of the file as it exists now. Time Machine backs up when there's a change. It doesn't back up the same file over and over again if it hasn't been changed. So in this case, all 5 files are backed up and they're just fine. Even though now files B, D, and E haven't been accessed in a while. They're not present locally. They've been optimized. You still have the backup because they were created and then backed up by Time Machine originally. You're all good in this situation. And let's say file D is updated. It's downloaded. It has to be downloaded for you to update it. Once it's downloaded, it's recently accessed. It's going to hang around for a while. Time Machine is going to back it up and Time Machine will get this new version of file D there. So it's all good. Everything's still backed up. From this point on, anything you do, anytime you change a file, it's going to be present locally for Time Machine to back it up. So you don't have to have Optimized Mac Storage turned off. Time Machine is going to be able to handle this situation just fine. You'll have the same backup you would have if Optimized Mac Storage was off. Now let's look at a different situation. Let's look at the situation where some folder was created and you weren't using Time Machine. You've got Optimized Mac Storage on. So eventually, after a while, files B, D, and E are offloaded because you haven't accessed them in a while. Files A and C are present because you have accessed them recently. Now you start your Time Machine backup. Time Machine can only back up A and C. It can't access B, D, and E because they're not present locally. It can't back them up. Now you delete file D by accident. There's no way to recover it. Time Machine never actually saw the file local. It was optimized and offloaded and only present on Apple's server from the moment Time Machine started backing things up. Now that you've deleted it, it's gone. You can't get it back. Keep in mind, by deleting it, I mean it was dragged to the trash and that trash was emptied. It's a little hard to do, as it should be. So hopefully this situation doesn't come up too often. And if it does come up, keep in mind it has to be with a file that you haven't accessed recently since you actually started backing up with Time Machine. So this is a situation where by using Optimized Mac Storage and Time Machine you fail to back up a file and then you lose it. But how often does this actually happen? There are really 3 main times when you need your Time Machine backup. The first is a catastrophe, right? Your Mac's stolen, it's broken, a meteor hit your house, whatever. It's gone and you need to get all your files back. Another situation is you need to revert to an old version of a file. You're writing your autobiography and a few weeks ago you made some changes and now you want to revert back to before you made those changes. And a third reason is that you had a file and you accidentally deleted it and a couple weeks later you realize your mistake and now you want it back. So if you're using iCloud Drive Optimized Mac Storage and you've been backing up with Time Machine, how can you recover in these situations? Well, in a catastrophe it turns out you're fine. You restore your local files from Time Machine. This gives you things back that say were in your Movies folder that weren't part of iCloud Drive. It also restores everything in iCloud Drive that Time Machine could get a hold of to back up. Then you sign into iCloud. Now you have access to everything that was in iCloud Drive, including the files that Time Machine never got to see and never got to back up. You're back to everything restored. Just restoring from Time Machine, signing into iCloud, and you're back. The fact that you use Optimized Mac Storage didn't hurt you at all. Now what about the situation where you revert to an old version of a file? Well, chances are you don't need Time Machine at all to revert. Most modern apps like Pages, Numbers, and Keynote, or even things like Microsoft Word, have a function where you can revert to a previous version of the file. So you can just revert to that previous version inside the app. No need to access your backup. But let's say it's a file that doesn't have that. It's a graphics file or something with an app that doesn't have a revert to function. Well, if you change the file, then that means the file had to be downloaded on your Mac. It had to be present there, which means the Time Machine got a chance to back it up doing its regular hourly backups. Which means it's going to be there on Time Machine. You're covered. You can get this old version of the file back. How about if you delete a file? Well, if you delete a file and it's something you've accessed recently, then it would have been present at some point on your local drive. Time Machine would have backed it up, and now you can recover it using Time Machine. But there's that last situation where it's a file that doesn't appear to be important. You haven't accessed it since you started your Time Machine backup that you're using right now, and it's just not present there in Time Machine. It's gone. This is the situation that's not covered. So you have to ask yourself, is it worth it to get a Mac with a really big hard drive so you don't use Optimize and have everything present all the time so you have 100% backup to avoid this one situation? Or can you use the Optimize feature knowing that you're covered most of the time for most things that you use a backup for? And keep in mind that if you know there's a file that's important to you, like for instance you are writing your autobiography but you haven't touched the file in a year and you've started a new Time Machine backup since then, you could always go to that file and click the little cloud icon to download it, and that will get it backed up. Or just open up any file and do anything with it and it will get backed up. You can even select a whole folder and say, I want all this stuff. This is important tax information or whatever. Download that now, and then it will be local for at least a while and get backed up. So I hope this explains all the different aspects of using Time Machine backups along with the iCloud Drive Optimize Mac Storage option. As you can see, you're pretty much covered even if you're using the Optimize Mac Storage function. But if you want to be absolutely sure that you're covered all the time, it's just a matter of having a big enough hard drive and not using the Optimize feature. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.